The Story of King Arthur and His Knights by Howard Pyle. Here beginneth the second book of the history of King Arthur, called the Book of the Three Worthies, because it has to do with three very excellent honourable lords at the court of King Arthur. Of these three, the first is Merlin the Wise, the second is Sir Pelleas, surnamed the Gentle Knight, and the third is Sir Gawain, the son of King Lot of Orkney and the Isles. Now presently follows the story of the passing of Merlin the Wise, in which you shall see how the very wisdom that Merlin possessed in such great measure was the cause of his own undoing. Wherefore, I do hope that you yourselves may take this story unto heart, so that you shall see that those gifts of mind or person which God assigns unto you may not be so misused by you or others that they shall become the means of compassing your own downfall. For it shall not excuse you in any wise that as you journey forward in your life, you shall find many men who, like Merlin, have been endowed by the grace of God with very great gifts of talent, which they might very easily use for the great benefit of mankind, but which they so misuse as to bring the greater ruin upon themselves, and the greater harm unto other men. For if you shall prove so weak or so wicked as misuse your talents in the manner unto the harm of others and of yourself, it shall not make your fault the less that others shall have done greater evil than yourself. Wherefore, let this story of Merlin be a warning unto you, I pray you all. For, though I do not believe that Merlin intended that his talents of magic should do harm unto others, yet, because of his folly, they did as great harm as though he himself had designed to do evil by means of them. Yea, it is hard to tell whether the wickedness or the follies of man do the greater harm in the world. Therefore, seek to guard yourself well, not only against sin, but against folly and weakness likewise. Upon a certain day King Arthur sat in the royal hall of Camelot, with the queen and all of his court and all of her court, and there was great joy and mirth at that place. Whilst they sat there suddenly came an armed knight into the hall, and his armour was all covered with blood and dust, and he had a great many wounds upon his body. Then all they who were at that place were astonished and affrighted by the aspect of that knight, for his appearance boded no good news to King Arthur. The knight messenger came to where the king was, and he was nearly fainting with weakness and with the many wounds he had received. And he brought news unto those who were there present that 5 kings, enemies to King Arthur, had suddenly come into that land, and that they were burning and harrying the country upon every side. And the knight messenger said that these 5 kings were the king of Denmark, the king of Ireland, the king of Solis, the king of the Vale, and the king of Longtenace. These had brought with them a great host, and were laying waste the land all round about, so that all the realm was in sore travail and sorrow because of their devastations. Upon this news, King Arthur smote his palms together with great vehemence, and cried out, Alas! Who would be a king? Will the time never come when these wars and disturbances shall cease, and we shall have entire peace in this land? Therefore he arose in great agitation, and went out from that place, and all there were in sore trouble. So King Arthur immediately sent messengers to 2 friendly kings who were nearest to him, to wit, to King Pellinore and to King Uriens of Gore, and he bade them to come to his aid without any loss of time. Meantime, he himself gathered together a large army with intent to go forth to meet his enemies forthwith. So he went forth, and upon the 3rd day he came in with his army unto the forest of Tintagalon, and there he stayed with intent to rest for a little while until King Pellinore and King Uriens should have joined him. But the 5 kings, his enemies, had news that King Arthur was at that place, and thereupon they made a forced march through North Wales, with intent to strike him ere those other 2 kings should come to his aid. So they came by night to where King Arthur was, and they fell upon him so unexpectedly that there was great danger of his army being put to rout before that assault. But King Arthur drew his army together by his own courage and large-heartedness. And so they defended themselves with a great spirit until King Pellinore appeared with his army and joined in that battle. So in the end King Arthur won a great victory over his enemies, for they were put to rout and scattered in every direction. Likewise, by means of that war, and because of the submissions of these 5 kings, King Arthur recovered all that realm that had once been his father's, and more besides. Now, in that war 8 of the knights of the Round Table lost their lives, and King Arthur mourned their loss with great dolor. for these were the first knights of the Round Table who had lost their lives in doing battle in his defense. Whilst King Arthur was grieving very sorely for these 8 knights, Merlin came unto him and said, Be not downcast, lord, for lo, thou hast many excellent knights still left about thee, and thou canst certainly not have a very great deal of trouble in filling those 8 places that have thus been made empty by death. Now, if thou followest my counsel, thou must choose some very worthy adviser from the knights companion of thy Round Table, and thou wilt consult with him in this matter, for the counsel of 2 is better than the counsel of 1, and between ye may fill these places made vacant by war. The counsel appeared very good to King Arthur, so he did as Merlin advised. For that morning he summoned King Pellinore to his privy closet, and laid the matter before him, and they 2 communed together thereupon. In that consultation King Pellinore advised King Arthur in this wise, that there should be 4 old and worthy knights chosen to fill 4 of the empty seats, and that there should be 4 young and ardent knights chosen to fill the other 4 seats, and in that manner all those 8 seats should be filled. Now that advice appeared to King Arthur to be good, wherefore he said, Let it be that way. So first they chose 2 of the 4 old knights as follows. There was King Uriens of Gore, and King Lac, and Sir Hervise de Rule, and Sir Galliard of Rouge. Now, from the youngest knights of the court, they chose Sir Marvise of Leslie, and Sir Lionel, the son of King Ben of Benwick, and Sir Cadar of Cornwall, so that there was 1 place yet to be filled. Now, it was a very hard thing to determine who should fill that place, for there were at the time 2 very honourable young knights at the court. One of these was Sir Bodmagus, a young knight, brother of Sir Owain and the son of King Uriens of Gore and Queen Morgana le Fay, which lady was half-sister unto King Arthur, as hath been aforetold. And the other young knight was Sir Tor, who, though late come to court, had performed several very famous adventures. And Sir Tor was a son of King Pellinore, though not of his queen, and King Pellinore loved him a very great deal. Then King Pellinore said to King Arthur, Lord, there are certainly but 2 knights in all thy court to choose from for to fill this 8th seat of the Round Table. One of these is thy sister's son, Sir Bodmagus, and the other is my own son, Sir Tor. Now, I may not advise thee in this matter, wherefore do thou, Lord, choose the one or the other of these young knights to fill that place. But this I may say, that it will please me very greatly if thy favour should fall upon Sir Bodmagus. For then will all the world believe that I have been above reproach in my dealings in this affair, whereas, should Sir Tor be chosen, all men would say that I favoured mine own son. Then King Arthur meditated upon this matter for a long while, and by he spoke and said, Sir, I have waited this whole affair, and it is my belief that Sir Tor is the better knight of those twain. For he hath performed several very excellent adventures, while Sir Bodmagus, though a worthy knight, hath not yet made manifest in any very great achievement in the fields of chivalry. So, in God's name, let Sir Tor be seated as a champion at the Round Table. Then King Pellinore said, So be it. And whereupon they both arose and went forth from that place. And lo, that very moment the names of those 8 worthies so chosen appeared each upon the back of the seat at the Round Table that appertained unto him. And so the decision of those 2 knights was confirmed in sight of all the world in that manner. Now when the word of all this reached the ears of Queen Morgana le Fay, she was greatly offended that Sir Bodmagus, her son, should have been passed by and that another should have been chosen in his stead. Wherefore she cried out against King Arthur in the hearing of several people, saying, Ha! How is this? Is blood and kingship no account in the eyes of this king, that he passes by so worthy a knight as his own nephew, to choose one who is not of lawful birth in his stead? Now my husband's house has suffered many grievous ills at the hands of King Arthur. For lo, he hath taken away our royal power, and has made us all little better than captives in his own court. This in itself is a great affront, as though we were his bitter enemies instead of his nigh of kin. But this that he hath now done to my son, in thus passing him by, is a greater affront than that other. And Queen Morgana le Fay spoke in this wise, not only to King Uriens, who was a husband, but to Sir Owain and to Sir Bodmagus, who were her sons. But King Uriens of Gore rebuked her for her speech, for he had grown to love King Arthur very much because of the high nobility of his nature, and likewise Sir Owain rebuked her, saying that he would listen to no ill things said of King Arthur. For not only did he love King Arthur better than anyone else in all the world, but that the king was at once the looking-glass of all knighthood, and likewise the very fountain-head of honour. So spake these two, but Sir Marhaus hearkened to what his mother Queen Morgana said. For he was very angry with King Arthur because the king had passed him by. Wherefore he took his departure from the court without asking leave of King Arthur, and went errant in quest of adventure. And at this King Arthur was very sorry. Now, as aforesaid, Queen Morgana le Fay spake her indignation to several other people of the court, so that word thereof came at last to the ears of King Arthur, and grieved him a very great deal. So, when Queen Morgana came to him one day, and besought his leave for to quit the court, he spake to her with a great sadness of spirit, saying, My sister, I am very sorry that you are not pleased with what I have done in this manner, for God knows that I have endeavoured to do the best of my power. And though I would rather a great deal that Sir Marhaus were fellow of the Round Table, yet it was my very honest belief that for several reasons Sir Tor had the best right to a seat at that table. Now if I chose otherwise than according to my right judgment, what virtue would the Round Table have, seeing that I should have shown favour unto a man because of his kinship to me? Then Queen Morgana le Fay said with great heat, Sir, all that you say only adds to the affront that our house hath sustained at your hands. For now, you not only deny my son that seat, but you belittle him by comparing him to his disadvantage with this low-born knight whom you have chosen. Now, the only pleasure I can have in talking to you is to beseech you to let me go away from this place. Then King Arthur, speaking with great dignity, said, Lady, it shall be as you would have it, and you shall go whithersoever it pleases you. For God forbid that I should stay you in your wishes. Moreover, I shall see to it that you shall not depart from this place without such a court for company as may very well befit one who is the wife of one king and the sister of another. And so he did as he said he would do, for he sent Queen Morgana le Fay away from his court with great honour and in the highest state of circumstance. But the more patient King Arthur was with her, and the more he showed her favour, the more angry Queen Morgana le Fay was him, and the more she hated him. So she betook away to a statuary of the sea, and there she dismissed those whom the king had sent with her, and embarked with her own court in several ships, betaking her way to that enchanted island, hight Avalon, which was her home. The island of Avalon was a very strange, wonderful land, such as not been seen anywhere else in all the world, for it was like a paradise for beauty, being covered all over with divers gardens of flowers, intermingled with plantations of fair trees, some bearing fruits and others all abloom with blossoms. And besides these were many terraces of lawns, and smooth slopes of grass lying all about the borders of the island, and overlooking the sea from tall white walls of pure marble. And in the midst of these gardens and orchards and plantations and lawns and terraces were a multitude of castles and towers built up the one above the other, some as white as snow and others very gay with many colours. And the greatest marvel of this wonderful island was this, that in the midst of all those castles and towers there was a single tower built entirely of lodestone, and in that lay the great mystery of that place. For the island floated above the surface of the water, and that tower of lodestone possessed such a potency that Avalon would float from place to place according to the will of Queen Morgana le Fay, so that sometimes it would be here, and sometimes it would be there, as that royal lady willed it to be. Nor was there very many people who had seen that island. For some whiles it would be all covered over with a mist of enchantment like to silver, so that no eyes could behold it unless they were fey. But sometimes it had been seen, as if it was a vision of paradise. What time he who beheld it would hear gay voices sounding from its lawns and plantations, very thin and clear because of the great distance, for no one ever came nigh to Avalon unless by the authority of Queen Morgana le Fay. And he would hear music so sweet of a sort that it was likely his soul would grow all faint because of the music. Then Avalon would suddenly disappear very marvellously, and he who had seen it would be aware that it was not likely he would ever see it again. Such was the island of Avalon. If you would read of it more, Particularly, you shall find much about it in a certain book written in French and called Auguste le Denoy. Queen Morgana le Fay loved this island a very great deal, and it is said by many that King Arthur is yet alive in this place, lying there very peacefully and tranquilly, where he waits that certain time which he shall return unto the world to make right all that is wrong therein. So it is I have told you of it, with these particulars in place.